living alone in old age can lead to some surprising changes. In this video, we're sharing 12 things that living solo will make you do, things that could completely shift your mindset and lifestyle. Stick around until the end for a powerful realization that will make you rethink how you approach independence. Number 1. Stay physically active to maintain health. As we get older, staying physically active becomes more important than ever. But when you're living alone, it's easy to let that slide. After all, there's no one around to push you out the door for a walk or remind you to stretch. Yet, keeping your body moving is one of the most effective ways to maintain health and independence as you age. When you're living solo, the responsibility of staying active falls squarely on your shoulders. You can't rely on anyone else to get you moving, but that doesn't mean you're on your own. The key is to build movement into your day in a way that feels natural, not forced. Start by finding something that you genuinely enjoy. Whether it's gardening, dancing in your living room, or a morning yoga session, it's easier to stick with something you look forward to. But here's the thing, it doesn't always have to be a big workout session. In fact, it shouldn't always be. Small bursts of activity, scattered throughout your day, can make a huge difference. Maybe it's doing a few stretches while watching your favorite show or walking around the house as you wait for your coffee to brew. You'd be amazed at how these little moments add up over time, turning into a steady rhythm that helps keep your body in check. Physical activity doesn't just help your body stay strong, it also supports your mind. The older we get, the more we realize how closely our physical health and mental health are linked. Staying active can boost your mood, improve your sleep, and even sharpen your memory. It's almost like a natural antidepressant, without the side effects. Plus, when you live alone, staying physically active can help combat feelings of loneliness or isolation. It gives you a purpose, something to focus on beyond just getting through the day. There's also the matter of preserving your independence. As we age, there's a natural decline in strength, flexibility, and balance. But these changes don't have to be a given. Regular exercise can slow down the aging process, helping you maintain mobility, flexibility, and strength well into your later years. This means you can keep doing the things you love and don't have to depend on others for help with everyday tasks. And let's be honest, who wants to give up their independence? It's one of the best parts of living alone. Don't worry about being perfect, either. It's easy to get caught up in thinking you need to do everything right, but really, it's about consistency. You don't need to train for a marathon or become a fitness guru. Just aim to keep moving, and do it in a way that fits into your life. Whether it's a few minutes of stretching or taking the stairs instead of the elevator, it all counts. What matters most is making physical activity a regular part of your life. And the more you move, the easier it becomes. In the end, staying physically active isn't just about looking good or fitting into a specific image of health, it's about feeling good, staying strong, and taking control of your future. Living alone gives you the freedom to design your day, and making time for movement is one of the best ways to use that freedom wisely. Number 2, experience heightened sensitivity to being forgotten by loved ones. As we get older and live alone, something strange starts to happen. We become acutely aware of being forgotten by those we care about. It's not that people set out to ignore us, but there's this slow, creeping sense that we're slipping from the forefront of their minds. Maybe it's the busy lives everyone's living, or maybe it's because we start to fade into the background of their daily routines. Either way, the feeling of being forgotten becomes a silent companion, one we can't shake off. It's subtle, almost invisible, yet sharp enough to sting when we notice it. There's a kind of vulnerability that comes with living on your own in old age. You might find yourself staring at your phone, hoping for a call or a message. You check your inbox and realize that days have passed without a single ping from a friend or family member. You start to wonder, is everyone just too busy? Did I do something wrong? Are they still thinking about me? the anxiety can spiral, with thoughts of being forgotten haunting you more than you'd expect. And here's the thing, this sensitivity doesn't always come from a place of wanting attention or sympathy. It's not about feeling entitled to be the center of anyone's world. It's more like the quiet acknowledgement that, in the rush of life, we can become an afterthought. People get wrapped up in their own stories, their own obligations, and gradually, they might forget to check in. Or maybe we don't see them as often, and the distance grows wider. Time, it seems, has a way of gently erasing connections. Not out of malice, but because the clock keeps ticking, and everyone has their own journey to follow. Living alone amplifies this experience. It's easy to brush it off when you're surrounded by people, but when there's no one to share the space with, every moment of silence feels more intense. The occasional lapse in communication feels like an echo in an empty room. Sometimes, you might even convince yourself that maybe you're just too much of a burden to others. Maybe they don't have time for you. The absence of a message, a visit, or a call takes on a weight of its own. But there's also a part of us that feels embarrassed by these emotions. Who wants to admit that they're struggling with the fear of being forgotten? It's a quiet sadness, one that doesn't often get spoken about. It's easy to put on a brave face and act like it doesn't bother us. But, deep down, we all want to be seen. We want to know that we matter, that we haven't been left behind. The feeling of being forgotten doesn't just make us question our relationships, it makes us question our place in the world. And so, we begin to crave the smallest gestures, the unexpected phone call, the friendly text, the simple check-in. It's not about grand gestures. It's about making sure we're still seen, still remembered, still part of the lives we've worked so hard to build. In old age, living alone, it's those little reminders that we're not invisible that can make all the difference. Number 3, prioritize personal safety measures. When you're living alone, especially as you age, prioritizing personal safety becomes an unspoken necessity. It's not just about having the right locks on doors or remembering to turn off the stove. It's about creating a space where you feel secure, confident, and comfortable, physically, mentally, and emotionally. Over time, you start to realize that safety isn't just a set of precautions, it's a lifestyle. One of the first things you'll probably notice is how much more aware you become of your surroundings. When there's no one else around to help out or notice the little things, you learn to be hypervigilant. Things like keeping the lights on in the hallway or making sure your phone is charged aren't just habits, they're safeguards. Suddenly, every tiny detail feels more important because, well, there's no one to call out for if something goes wrong. You'll likely become a little more methodical about your environment, too. Maybe you'll start rearranging furniture so it's easier to navigate without tripping, or you'll put those extra handrails in places you didn't think were necessary before. It's not paranoia, it's just common sense. The more you think about how easily accidents could happen, the more you want to avoid them. Things that seemed trivial in the past, like organizing your kitchen or bathroom, become important tasks. A clutter-free, organized space not only feels better, but it reduces the risk of slips, trips, and falls. And then there's technology. As we get older, tech isn't just for convenience, it's often for safety. From smart home devices to security cameras, technology gives us the tools to feel more in control. But it's not just about setting up gadgets for show, it's about using them wisely. You might find yourself getting better at using emergency alerts on your phone or even wearing a personal alarm that can be triggered if you fall or need assistance. It might feel a bit overboard at first, but trust me, it provides peace of mind that nothing else can. One of the more unexpected aspects of living alone in old age is how much you start relying on routine. You might not have a partner or roommate to keep track of things for you, but you start setting up your life in a way that minimizes risks and maximizes safety. Maybe you always keep your favorite snacks in the same place, or you always have your keys in a specific pocket. These little routines add up to a big sense of stability. You become so used to doing things in a certain order that you almost don't have to think about it. This isn't just a habit, it's a way to ensure that you stay on top of things without overloading yourself. Living alone means that your safety is ultimately your responsibility, and while it can feel like a heavy burden at times, it's also empowering. It forces you to become proactive, to be more mindful of your actions, and to embrace the things you can control in a world where so much is unpredictable. It's about taking charge of your surroundings and making intentional choices to safeguard your well-being. And when you do that, it's not just about staying safe, it's about feeling free and secure in your own space. Number 4, celebrate small victories or events alone. When you're living alone, there's no one around to throw you a party every time you hit a milestone, big or small. But here's the thing, celebrating those little victories is still so important. In fact, it might be even more crucial when you're flying solo. It's easy to overlook how vital it is to acknowledge your achievements when there's no one else to cheer you on, but doing so can have a surprisingly powerful effect on your well-being. Celebrating on your own doesn't mean throwing a lavish celebration every time you manage to finish a puzzle or complete a task. It's about recognizing and appreciating the small moments that make up your day, your week, and your life. Maybe it's something as simple as enjoying a cup of tea after a productive morning or taking a moment to smile after accomplishing a task that felt daunting at first. When you live alone, the practice of celebrating these victories, no matter how small, can become an act of self-love and recognition. It's so easy to get caught up in the hustle of life, especially as we get older. The world moves fast, and sometimes it feels like we're just pushing through one thing to get to the next. But taking the time to celebrate can be a grounding force, reminding us that we've earned the right to feel proud, even if nobody else is there to clap. In fact, learning to celebrate yourself is one of the most empowering things you can do. Living alone gives you the freedom to choose how you celebrate. It doesn't need to be flashy, and it certainly doesn't need to be shared with anyone else. It's about what makes you feel good. Maybe you treat yourself to a quiet evening with your favorite book, or perhaps you spend a little extra time on a hobby that brings you joy. Celebrating on your own means embracing the idea that your successes are worthy of attention, even if that attention is coming from you and you alone. And, honestly, when you live alone, there's a kind of freedom in celebrating without the pressure of other people's expectations. No need for big, over-the-top celebrations or comparisons. It's all about you and your own journey. Maybe you danced around the living room after finishing a tough project, or you took a victory lap after crossing a long-term goal off your list. These personal moments are just as meaningful, if not more so, than any external recognition. The beauty is that you're building your own narrative, where you're both the hero and the one who gets to give out the rewards. It also becomes a way to stay connected to yourself. In a world where so much of our lives is dictated by the people around us, family, friends, co-workers, living alone encourages you to cultivate your own sense of self-worth. Celebrating those little wins reminds you that, regardless of your circumstances, you are enough. It's a gentle reminder that your own efforts are valuable and worthy of acknowledgement. These celebrations, while small, add up to create a stronger, more resilient sense of self. And let's not forget how this practice can boost your mood. Taking time to acknowledge your accomplishments can release those feel-good hormones, making you feel more energized and positive. It's like a little shot of happiness that can help you get through the next challenge. Over time, celebrating yourself helps build a healthy mindset, one that values progress and perseverance rather than waiting for others to validate your journey. In the end, celebrating small victories when you're living alone is more than just a nice gesture, it's a way to honor your own growth. So, don't be afraid to give yourself a high five, even if it's just you in the room. You've earned it. Number 5. Form deep connections with neighbors for companionship. When you live alone in your later years, something subtle shifts in your perception of those around you. You begin to look at your neighbors in a way that might not have occurred to you before. What were once simple, fleeting exchanges, a smile in the hallway, a quick nod when you pass each other on the street, start to mean a lot more. The idea of forming deeper connections with neighbors, for companionship, becomes a quiet necessity. It's not that you're seeking a new family, but the need for human interaction, for someone who sees you and cares, grows stronger. Living alone can feel isolating, and over time, that sense of solitude can begin to gnaw at you. You realize that the occasional chat with someone next door can break the monotony. It might not be a deep, soul-bearing conversation, but it's the little moments that start to matter, the quick hello when you're both out taking out the trash, or a shared laugh over something trivial. It's these small exchanges that gradually build into something more meaningful. There's a certain comfort in knowing that someone, even if they're just a few doors down, is there. And that's exactly what you start to crave. The truth is, as we get older, we're more aware of how fleeting time can be, and it makes the connections we have with others feel all the more precious. Neighbors, by sheer proximity, become the people you can rely on in a way that friends and family, who may be far away, can't always provide. They're the ones who notice when you're not out on your porch for a few days, or when you're struggling to carry a grocery bag up the stairs. These small gestures of attentiveness form a bond that might not be immediate but, over time, becomes rooted in shared moments of human warmth. It's not just about convenience, it's about forging genuine companionship. When you live alone, you start to appreciate the simple act of someone checking in on you. Sometimes, it's not even about needing something specific, it's just about knowing that someone is there, that you matter in their world. These relationships can be unexpectedly fulfilling, often growing in ways that surprise you. A cup of tea shared, a favorite book recommended, or a walk to the local park together might not seem like much, but they are threads that weave a comforting fabric of connection. And here's the thing. Living alone doesn't have to mean feeling alone. Neighbors, who once may have been strangers, gradually become the people you look forward to seeing. There's a certain magic that happens when you allow yourself to be open to the possibilities around you. You begin to realize that there's something special about the bonds you create in your immediate environment. Maybe it's because you know each other's routines, or maybe it's because the shared experience of living near one another creates a unique, unspoken understanding. Over time, these relationships become the ones you depend on for the small joys of daily life. Whether it's borrowing a cup of sugar or simply having someone to chat with when the day feels too quiet, these connections start to fill the spaces left by loneliness. It's in these interactions that you find a sense of belonging, and that, in itself, is priceless. So, while the world may seem vast, and your circle may feel smaller, the connections you form with those closest to you, your neighbors, become more meaningful than ever before. Number 6. Manage finances meticulously. Living alone as you get older brings with it a strong sense of independence, but it also means that managing your finances takes on a whole new level of importance. There's no one around to help juggle bills or make last-minute decisions about spending. It all falls squarely on your shoulders, and that's when you realize just how crucial it is to stay on top of your finances, no matter how much it might feel like a mountain at times. First off, budgeting becomes less of a nice-to-have and more of a must-have when you're living alone. Without anyone else to share expenses or handle the unexpected costs, you quickly learn that every penny counts. So, you get methodical, almost to a fine art. You'll find yourself tracking every expense, big or small, to ensure nothing slips through the cracks. It might start with setting up a simple spreadsheet or using an app that helps you visualize where your money is going. Pretty soon, you're instinctively knowing how much you have left in the month and adjusting your plans accordingly. But it's not just about keeping track of the small stuff. Living alone can make you realize just how important it is to plan for the future. You might not have anyone to fall back on if something goes wrong, so you begin putting more thought into things like saving for emergencies or retirement. The reality of being solely responsible for your financial well-being can be sobering, but it also drives you to take action. You become less likely to splurge on unnecessary things because you know every dollar saved could be the cushion you need in a tight spot. One thing you might also notice is how much more you focus on your long-term goals. When you're not constantly distracted by the needs of others or the demands of a shared household, you have the mental space to focus on bigger financial ambitions. Maybe you decide to invest more seriously or start exploring new income streams. Or perhaps you get more intentional about paying off debt, knowing that being debt-free in your later years could be a game changer for your peace of mind. Of course, there's always that balancing act between being frugal and enjoying life. Living alone doesn't mean you need to sacrifice every joy, far from it. You get better at prioritizing your spending, learning to splurge on the things that truly matter while cutting back on things that don't bring you lasting happiness. That coffee shop latte? Maybe not so often. That weekend getaway? You bet you'll make room for it. It's all about finding that sweet spot where your financial stability and enjoyment of life meet. And then there's the paperwork. If there's one thing you really come to terms with while managing your finances solo, it's how much more responsibility you bear when it comes to staying organized. Tax forms, bills, insurance policies, they all pile up, and it's on you to keep track of them. What seemed like a chore in earlier years becomes part of the rhythm of life. And over time, you start to develop a system for staying organized that works just for you. Whether it's digitizing your documents or setting up a filing system that's easy to navigate, you get it done, because you know that managing your finances meticulously is non-negotiable. In the end, managing your finances when living alone becomes a kind of self-care. It's about more than just keeping your bank account in the black, it's about feeling empowered. You know where you stand, and you know you've got the skills to weather whatever comes your way. The confidence you gain from mastering your financial life spills over into every other part of living alone. It's a reminder that you've got this. Number 7, seek hobbies to combat loneliness. When you're living alone, there's a quiet kind of loneliness that can sneak in, even on the days when everything is going well. The silence can feel a little heavier, and you might find yourself wishing for something to fill the space. This is where hobbies come in, not just as a way to pass the time, but as a powerful tool to combat that sense of isolation. They give you something to focus on, something to look forward to, and often, something to get lost in. The beauty of hobbies is that they can be anything you want them to be. Maybe you've always had an interest in painting, or perhaps you've been meaning to try your hand at gardening, but you've never gotten around to it. When you live alone, you have the freedom to explore whatever piques your curiosity without worrying about what anyone else thinks. That freedom can be liberating, especially as you get older and the pressures of life begin to slow down a bit. Engaging in a hobby not only helps keep your mind occupied, but it also provides a sense of purpose. When you're creating, building, or learning something new, it shifts your attention away from feelings of loneliness and towards something more positive. A hobby becomes a quiet companion that demands your focus, and in doing so, it helps you rediscover the joy of simply being present. It's a subtle reminder that there's always something more to explore, something more to learn. And here's the thing, hobbies don't just fill time, they can also help you build a deeper connection with yourself. When you're living alone, it's easy to get caught up in your own head, but a hobby gives you an outlet. Whether it's knitting, photography, or even learning how to cook a new recipe, hobbies create moments of achievement and self-expression. You start to realize that, even in solitude, you're capable of doing something meaningful, something that brings you joy, even if no one else is around to witness it. As you dive into a hobby, you might even find it sparks connections with others, too. While you might not have people physically nearby, the online world is full of communities where like-minded individuals come together to share their interests. Whether it's through forums, social media groups, or virtual classes, hobbies can help you feel part of a larger community, even if it's just through shared passion. the isolation starts to feel less pronounced when you know there are others out there who enjoy the same things you do. What's more, hobbies have this amazing ability to slow time down. As you get absorbed in something you love, whether it's assembling a jigsaw puzzle or composing a piece of music, you begin to lose track of time. The loneliness that might have seemed overwhelming at first fades into the background. You're no longer counting the hours in silence, you're wrapped up in the present moment, engaged and content. Hobbies allow you to create your own rhythm, giving structure and fulfillment to your day. In the long run, finding a hobby isn't just about filling the silence. It's about giving yourself something to hold on to, a thread of joy that runs through the everyday. It's about creating a space where you're free to express yourself, grow, and, most importantly, remind yourself that you're not alone in this. There's always something out there waiting for you to discover, and your next great hobby could be the very thing that turns your solitude into a journey of self-exploration. Number 8. Organize medical and emergency contacts. When you live alone in your later years, there's a shift that happens in how you approach the day-to-day, particularly when it comes to your health and safety. You begin to realize just how important it is to have a plan in place. It's not something you necessarily want to think about, but the reality sets in that organizing your medical and emergency contacts is no longer optional, it's essential. There's a strange kind of peace that comes with having your contacts and critical health information organized. Maybe it's the security of knowing exactly who to call if something goes wrong, or the comfort of having your medical history neatly laid out, ready to share if an emergency arises. It's less about anticipating disaster and more about taking charge of your own well-being. The truth is, as we get older, being proactive in these matters feels less like a chore and more like a form of self-care. It's a way to ensure that, should something happen, you aren't scrambling to figure out what to do next. You'll start by creating a list of doctors, specialists, and emergency contacts, those people you can rely on if things take an unexpected turn. It's not just about jotting down names and phone numbers. It's about being strategic. Maybe you have a favorite neighbor who can step in for a quick phone call when you're unable to reach someone. Or perhaps you have a close friend who's always a text away in case you need someone to help navigate the healthcare system. These are the people who form your safety net, and having them clearly listed makes it easier for you to stay in control of your health, no matter what comes your way. Then, there's the medical information itself. Your list of medications, past surgeries, allergies, and conditions, having all of this in one place is a game changer. It's not just for your peace of mind, but for anyone who might need to step in and help. If an ambulance has to be called, or if you're unable to advocate for yourself in a medical situation, having a folder or digital file with all your crucial details could make all the difference. No one wants to think about needing help, but knowing that your information is organized and accessible can make you feel more at ease. But organizing your medical and emergency contacts doesn't just stop with the basics. It's also about being prepared for unexpected situations. Maybe you keep an extra set of house keys with a trusted neighbor in case of an emergency. Or perhaps you've shared your medical list with a close friend who can step in if needed. It's the little things that make a big difference. You never know when you might need help, but knowing that it's just a phone call away brings a certain calm. In the end, organizing your medical and emergency contacts isn't about expecting something bad to happen, it's about taking control. It's about making sure that no matter what happens, you've set yourself up with the right resources. It's a simple act of care, a small but significant gesture that says, "I've got this." And maybe, in the process, you find that organizing these things isn't just about preparing for emergencies. It's about reclaiming your autonomy and ensuring you're as independent as possible, no matter what life throws your way. Number 9. Invent imaginary scenarios or role play to entertain oneself. When you're living alone, especially as you get older, there's a certain freedom that comes with it. But that freedom can sometimes feel a little quiet. And in those moments, when the silence of an empty house stretches out a little longer than you expected, you might find yourself slipping into something unexpected, creating your own little world. You start to invent imaginary scenarios, role-play different situations, and, honestly, you begin to entertain yourself in ways you never thought you would. At first, it might feel a little strange. Maybe you start out just talking to yourself in your head, narrating the day, or pretending you're in some big, dramatic movie scene as you go about making breakfast. But soon enough, you realize something: it's kind of fun. Maybe it's a way to break the monotony or add some color to the otherwise routine activities of the day, but your imagination takes over, and suddenly, you're living out all kinds of possibilities. There's something deeply satisfying about creating whole scenarios in your mind, even if they're entirely fictional. One moment, you might be playing the role of a famous explorer discovering new lands in the backyard. The next, you're imagining yourself in a thrilling mystery, piecing together clues from around the house. You could even turn your daily chores into an epic quest. Washing dishes? It's a battle against time before the clock strikes midnight, and only you can finish in time. Folding laundry? Well, that's a mission in stealth as you sneak around obstacles like a secret agent. You begin to see your home in a new light. Each corner becomes a potential setting for the next big adventure. These imagined scenarios, however silly they might seem, aren't just about passing the time. They offer a way to stay engaged, to keep your mind active, and to inject a little joy into the mundane. Living alone creates a space where you can be whoever you want, whenever you want. There's no one to judge, no one to stop you from fully diving into whatever role you've decided to take on. Whether it's pretending to be the host of a cooking show or the star of an action film, these role-playing moments fill the gaps left by the absence of other people around you. It's not even always about acting out grandiose fantasies. Sometimes it's just about indulging in small, everyday roles. You might picture yourself as the head of a bustling household, managing everything with a perfect sense of grace, or you might pretend you're on a reality show, narrating every move with over-the-top enthusiasm. The key here is that you're bringing a sense of play into your life, allowing your imagination to keep things fresh and fun. But these mental escapades do more than just entertain. They also give you a sense of agency. When you're alone, it's easy to feel like everything is just happening to you, with no one to bounce ideas off of or collaborate with. But when you role-play scenarios, you take control. You're the director, the actor, the audience all at once. It's a reminder that even when you're on your own, you still have the power to shape your own reality, at least for a little while. In the end, inventing these imaginary worlds isn't just about filling the silence. It's a way to keep the spark of creativity alive, to keep your mind sharp, and to remind yourself that it's okay to let go of reality every now and then. It's a playful form of self-care, one that can turn even the quietest of days into something a little more exciting. And really, who doesn't need that from time to time? Number 10. Engage in self-reflective conversations or journaling. Living alone in old age can stir up a lot of thoughts. There's something about the quiet, the stillness, that nudges us to look inward more often. Without the usual distractions of family or friends nearby, our minds can wander, and we start to ask ourselves big questions about life, the past, our goals, our dreams, and what we still want to achieve. This is where self-reflective conversations or journaling can really come into play, offering a powerful outlet to process those thoughts. Self-reflection doesn't mean you're sitting in silence, ruminating in a loop about everything that's gone wrong in life. Quite the opposite. It's about engaging with your own thoughts in a meaningful, constructive way. And living alone provides the perfect environment for this. Without the noise of the outside world, it's easier to tune into your inner voice and take the time to really listen to what's going on inside your head. It's a chance to check in with yourself, figure out where you are emotionally, and start to understand what you need or desire moving forward. One way to do this is through self-reflective conversations. You don't have to be speaking out loud, necessarily, though some might find it helpful to have a heart-to-heart with themselves. It's more about creating a dialogue in your own mind. Ask yourself questions like, how am I feeling today? What am I proud of? What would I do differently if I could start over? These aren't just idle musings. They're ways to dig deeper, to peel back layers, and to uncover the truths that may have gotten buried over the years. It's a chance to be honest with yourself, without judgment or fear of criticism. Now, journaling takes this a step further. Writing down your thoughts not only helps you get them out of your head, but it also forces you to slow down and really process everything. The act of putting pen to paper can make a big difference in how you understand and manage your emotions. It's like holding up a mirror to your soul. What may feel like a jumble of feelings in your mind suddenly becomes more structured when you write it down. Your thoughts have a way of becoming clearer, more focused, and sometimes even more surprising than you'd expect. And let's not forget the joy that can come from rereading old journals. What starts as a simple exercise of pouring your thoughts onto the page transforms into a valuable record of your journey. Looking back at what you've written over the months or years can reveal patterns, growth, and even moments of insight that you didn't fully appreciate at the time. It's like holding a conversation with your past self, learning from where you've been and finding clarity in where you're headed. There's also something deeply therapeutic about this kind of introspection. When you live alone, especially as you get older, it's easy to feel disconnected or unsure of your place in the world. But through self-reflection, you regain control. You can reaffirm your values, rewrite your goals, and reframe the story of your life. You start to feel like the author of your own narrative again, and that's a powerful thing. And don't worry if you're not a natural writer or if your reflections seem small or trivial. The beauty of journaling or self-reflection is that it's for you, and you alone. There's no need for perfection. What matters is that you're taking the time to process, to feel, and to grow. So, whether it's a quick jot in a notebook or a long, drawn-out session of talking to yourself, these moments of self-reflection can become an anchor in your day. And in the silence of living alone, they help you stay connected to yourself in a way that brings peace, clarity, and even joy. Number 11, avoid opening up emotionally out of fear of burdening others. As we get older and live alone, a strange thing happens. We start holding our emotions in check, often more than we realize. It's not that we don't feel deeply anymore. In fact, the opposite might be true. The older we get, the more we experience. But there's a hesitation to open up, to share what's really going on inside, because we don't want to burden anyone. The fear of being too much for others, of overwhelming them with our troubles, becomes a quiet weight we carry with us. It's a delicate balance. On one hand, we want to connect. We want to be heard, to have someone acknowledge that we're not just existing, but truly living with all the emotions that come with it. On the other hand, there's this nagging fear that our struggles, whether they're physical, emotional, or just the simple wear and tear of life, might be too much for others to handle. Maybe they have their own problems, their own busy lives, and we don't want to add to their load. So, we retreat inwardly. We bottle things up, pretending everything's fine when, in reality, we're carrying more than we let on. This tendency to avoid emotional openness isn't about being strong or independent. It's rooted in a subtle form of self-protection. There's a fear that if we ask for help or express our sadness, frustration, or loneliness, we'll be seen as a burden. And that thought is enough to make us hesitate before reaching out. It's as though our emotions become a fragile thing we don't want to break. We don't want to make others uncomfortable or put them in a position where they feel obligated to fix something that might be unfixable. But here's the thing, by not opening up, we often end up isolating ourselves even more. The walls we build to protect others from our feelings also end up keeping us distant from the very people who might be able to offer support. And sometimes, it's in these moments of emotional withholding that loneliness feels the heaviest. Because when you don't let anyone in, it's easy to feel like no one truly sees you, not just the happy moments, but the moments when you need a kind word or a gentle hand to hold. Still, that voice of doubt lingers, doesn't it? Am I asking for too much? We wonder. Do they really want to hear what I'm going through? The internal dialogue becomes a trap. We want to be strong. We want to be the person who doesn't need constant help. But the truth is, we all need connection. We need others to know us fully, not just the person we present on the surface, but the real, vulnerable version of ourselves that comes with all the aches, joys, and insecurities that accompany aging. So, we sit with our emotions, unsure of how to share them. We hold back, thinking we'll spare others the trouble. But the reality is that opening up, truly opening up, can be freeing. It can deepen relationships and remind us that we're not alone in our struggles. It's not about being a burden, it's about showing up as our full selves, without apology. And maybe, just maybe, that's the most human thing we can do. Because in the end, we all want to be seen. We all want to know that someone cares, not just about the good days, but about the ones where we need a little extra understanding. Number 12, overanalyze short interactions for hidden meanings. Living alone, especially as you get older, tends to make you hyper-aware of the smallest details. And, sometimes, this awareness manifests itself in ways you might not expect. For instance, you'll find yourself overanalyzing short, seemingly insignificant interactions with people, looking for hidden meanings behind every word, tone, or gesture. A simple "how's it going?" from a friend or a brief chat with the cashier at the store can suddenly become a riddle that needs solving. It's like the more alone you are, the more you start questioning the subtleties of social exchange, as if you're searching for something deeper, something more than what meets the eye. It starts innocently enough, just a passing thought here and there. Did she seem a little distant, or why did he say that with such a weird emphasis? But before long, these tiny, casual moments can grow into full-blown investigations. You might catch yourself replaying the conversation in your mind, dissecting every word and the way it was said, trying to decode its hidden significance. Maybe someone mentioned the weather in a strange tone, and now, all of a sudden, you're convinced it's not about the weather at all, it's some sort of subtle clue about something else. Maybe they were hinting at something personal or making a judgment about you. And that, my friend, is where the rabbit hole begins. It's not that you're paranoid, necessarily, it's more that the silence of living alone gives your mind more room to wander. You begin to read between the lines in ways that you wouldn't have if you had more people around. Conversations, interactions, even body language, everything starts to feel like it could hold a secret meaning. Did the person's smile seem forced, or were they genuinely happy to see you? Why did they pause when they asked about your health? Did they say "take care" with a little extra emphasis? It's a strange dance of interpretation, where even the most innocent words can seem charged with unspoken implications. The isolation of living alone often makes those small moments of human connection feel more intense, and with that intensity comes the tendency to overanalyze. There's no one around to help you process the encounter in real time, so your mind becomes its own investigator, replaying every interaction to extract meaning that may or may not even exist. And then, in this overthinking whirlpool, a simple greeting can take on a life of its own. Was it a sign of affection? A hint of something more? Or perhaps it was just a normal, casual comment? What makes this tendency even more interesting is how it stretches beyond just words. You start to analyze things like how someone holds eye contact, or how long they took to respond to a text. The slightest shift in their tone of voice could send your mind spiraling into a world of what-ifs. And sometimes, this overanalysis doesn't just stop at one person. You might find yourself reinterpreting past conversations, looking for signs you missed the first time around, as if your brain is creating a puzzle that needs solving. At its core, this overanalyzing is a product of the solitude that comes with living alone. when there's less daily human interaction, your brain craves it more. It begins to stretch those small moments of connection, trying to extract as much meaning as it can. It's like your mind is desperately searching for something significant in the smallest gestures, desperate to find clues that could explain emotions, intentions, or even hidden desires. You might not always find what you're looking for, but that doesn't stop you from searching, because sometimes, just sometimes, the answer feels just a little bit within reach. Thanks for watching. I hope these 12 things living alone makes us do in old age gave you some helpful insights into the changes that come with independence. It's all part of embracing a new chapter in life. If you found this video useful, don't forget to like, subscribe for more content, and share it with anyone who might find it helpful. Take care, and I'll see you in the next one.